What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video with Garage Todd. As always, my name is Cameron, and on today's video, we are going to be working on the Volkswagen CC. If you're not familiar, you can see it back there behind me. I bought this car for $250 from a coworker because he was just going to get rid of it, and there's really not that much wrong with it. A lot of cosmetic stuff, including the lighting, and the lighting on this car is downright dangerous. We've got really bad lenses that are just completely oxidized. The bulbs are super dim. You can't even tell that there's HIDs, and my fog lights are broken. So with the help of deAutoLed, we are going to be replacing every single bulb on the front end of this car, plus the reverse lights, just for good measure. So first thing I need to do is get the car jacked up. I need to get the front end disassembled and get these lights off of the car. All right, as you guys can see, we got the bumper off. We've got one headlight disconnected over there. I'm going to show you what it takes to remove these. It's actually super simple once you get the bumper off. There's a 10mm bolt that holds it to the actual chassis here. There's another one underneath here. You can see right up there. They're both 10mm bolts. And then on this car, there's another bolt that's supposed to go here on the top on each side. Neither of the headlights had it. I got to figure out what bolt that is so that I can secure that, because that's going to make these a lot more secure. All right, I got the headlights out, and I actually went ahead and started working on one of the headlights. I thought that these were going to be sealed in there via Butyl because they have the C-clips holding the lens to the housing, and that's typically a sign that they're held in by Butyl, which is a lot easier to remove than Permaseal. But no, these are held in by Permaseal, and it was a long night last night trying to get one of the housings off. I put it in an oven at 250 degrees for about 20 minutes, and that did warm it up a little bit, but ultimately it took using a heat gun to heat up the channels like crazy and prying like just ridiculously to get this lens out. And I'll flip this around and show you what the housing looks like and what the lens looks like. If you plan on ever separating these lenses, just go ahead and buy replacement lenses because they will not be reusable. Okay, so here is a close-up of what my lens looks like after having it removed. It's messed up. It's not reusable. One thing to note if you do this, your side marker lens and some of the trim pieces are located in here. So as you're prying on it, just be really careful not to damage anything in here, especially up in the corner and at the top. You can kind of see I might have messed up that little clip there, but that's the whole lens. You can see my replacement one sitting over there. Now let's show you the headlight. So yeah, this is just all sorts of messed up. You can see how the channel here, it doesn't look terrible. I mean, obviously it's kind of gnarly, but as you go around here, you can just see how much destruction came from actually prying this stuff apart. And then if we go to the bottom, this is where the worst of it is. And I'd rather have the worst be on the bottom because then moisture can fall down, but you can see it's all jacked up. So I'm gonna have to do a lot of repairing on this. The headlight itself is filthy because one of the caps was missing in the back. So there's a good amount of dust on here. So I'm gonna have to clean this all up. I'm gonna leave all this trim and stuff just as you see it here, but I'll probably paint the trim on this thing. I will probably paint that silver piece in there black, just because I think it'll look neat. Now, while I'm not gonna give you a full DIY on how to separate a Permasealed headlight lens from itself, I will give you my biggest tip for you. Have a heat gun, have a screwdriver, and what I would suggest is get a really good cutting wheel on a Dremel, or if you have access to an ultrasonic cutter, like an ultrasonic knife, I would highly suggest cutting the lens off of the headlight. Just be really careful not to damage anything inside of it, because it's going to be a whole lot easier to be able to grab on to the actual residually left piece and pull it away from the channel as you heat up the glue. The heat gun will help heat up that glue to where you can actually pull it apart, and that'll save your channels without mangling it like I did. So on the second headlight, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm sure I'll have some B-roll footage to show you guys what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I was talking about just real quick. I'm not going to show you the whole process of me cutting this thing out, but we just got to be very careful as we cut some of this channel out. I've got my Dremel. I'm going to go just barely into the lens here, and it's a little wobbly, so you got to be careful. Okay, so we finally cut the whole lens off. There's still this piece attached. Basically the entire border of the lens is still attached. So what I'm going to do next is use a heat gun and a pry tool and try and get one section apart out of the channel. And once I get that one section out, I can grab it and then I can just start lifting it from the channel and using the heat gun to heat up the Permaseal and slowly pull it out and use a screwdriver to work its way out. So that's what I'm going to do next. Once you start getting some of this started, it's not too bad. You got to be careful that you don't melt anything on the inside of the light. I'm going to heat this up. I already heated up some. I'm going to heat up a little bit more so that we loosen that Permaseal behind it. But you can see over here, the channel's pretty clear Permaseal. I mean, there's a little bit in there, but the channel looks all right. No matter what though, you're going to have marks from doing this. But once we get this good and hot, this little 5-inch section, what I'm going to do, since I got that channel open on the far right, I'm going to take my screwdriver. I'm going to get in all the way behind, because basically there's a lip that goes all the way deep into this actual channel. I'm going to try and get the screwdriver behind it. Once I get it behind it, I can actually take this screwdriver, force it underneath that channel, and push it back like this, and start working it out of the channel without completely damaging the headlight housing. Now you got to just be really careful that you don't lose control and hit your projector or anything else you don't want to damage, but look at that. Now I haven't even heated this section over here and it's still coming out pretty easily because I'm underneath this. And so the more that you get out, the more leverage you're going to have to pry and get this out of here. I'm not going to be greedy. Since I got a lot of that out, I'm going to go ahead and heat this up and continue on. But that's how I work all this out of the Permaseal and or work it out of the channel and remove the Permaseal. All right, so I've gotten all of the remainder of the lens out of the channel. And while this did keep a lot more of the channel more intact than the other way I did it, it still had damaged areas that were just, I know, kind of unstoppable from being damaged, mainly in the corners here. Those are the hard ones to do without any kind of damage. Now, I did have another casualty, unfortunately. You can see the ribbon wire that connects my LED lights, the DRLs there. That took a strike from a screwdriver and severed, and that is unrepairable. And I am not taking apart this headlight and buying another headlight. All right, I lied. That's exactly what I did. I went on eBay. I found a used headlight that had good interior parts, bought it, took it apart, and I was able to harvest the DRL ribbon strip and the actual assembly from that one into my new one. It also let me play around with disassembling that headlight to see how bad it was or how difficult it was, and it wasn't that difficult, and you're going to see a little bit later on that I decided to go ahead and go a little bit more into disassembling this headlight and customizing it. Now, the next step on both headlights is to clear out all the Permaseal in the channel, because that's where we need to set in the replacement lenses. And yeah, so I'm gonna get on that. Like I said, not doing a full DIY on this. If you want to do something like this, just take your time or pay someone else to do it, because it's honestly an absolute nightmare. One other thing to note on these headlights is where your side marker lens, the orange side marker, if you want to delete it or do something, be cognizant that if you delete it, you'll just have these exposed LEDs, and I'm pretty sure in OBD11 you can just disable those. So the best thing to do if you don't want to go in here and fix it, because this will all be exposed if you don't do something, the best thing to do is just to paint or wrap your orange side marker lens black and then reinstall it, and then it'll look a lot better. I kind of hinted at this earlier, but I decided to go ahead and disassemble my headlights and redo the shrouds, paint some other trim pieces just to give these a little bit more of a custom look, and I'm really happy that I did. But you're going to see in a little montage in a little bit of me kind of doing this whole process, and you know, it's not perfect, but I'm really happy that I was able to do it. Being able to have that spare headlight, have some spare parts just in case I messed up, came in handy. since I've got some time to wait while we're waiting for that new lens to show up and while we're waiting for paint to dry on the shrouds on the headlight, I'm going to go ahead and start addressing the fog lights. Both of them are broken, so we got to get this fog cover off, then we got to get the actual fog light out. All Volkswagen Audi fog light grills are about the same. You typically have to just push this way to take tension off the clips here and then bring it out. Now, if it's been in there a while, it can be kind of stuck. What we're gonna do is have the help of a nice little trim tool piece here, and we're going to get in here and start prying it off. Now, you might want to take greater care with your covers. I don't really care about this bumper. It's in terrible condition. So I'm not really being super finessing this thing out of here. I'm just trying to get it out. Okay, so now that we've got the fog grill off, you can see here everything's exposed, and we've got 3 bolts that hold in this fog light housing. I think they're T30s. I'm gonna verify, so let me go get that and we'll start to remove that. All right, I lied. They're actually T25s. Once I said there's 3 of them, so. Now, if you're doing this with a bumper on the car, you're gonna have a harness attached to your actual bulb, so make sure you don't just yank it out, take the harness off, but I've got that off already, so I'm just gonna move this out of the way. If you are gonna be replacing your fog lights, just use a little bit of caution, because I had to deal with this. So, this is the OEM one, and it is a 9006 bulb. I accidentally ordered an H8 fog light bulb, which is not gonna work, but that's because I ordered this fog light housing to replace it. It looked exactly the same. It said it was gonna fit my car. Unfortunately, they are very different on the back. You can see they don't have the same bolt pattern. This only has 2, this one has 3, and you can see it's got this extension one on here. This one doesn't have it. This one does not fit. So you need to make sure you get one that looks exactly the same. Now, this was like $30 on eBay. It said 9006 in the actual description, but when it showed up, it's actually an H11, as you can see there, which honestly works better because I accidentally ordered H8 bulbs for these when I got this one in, and H8 and H11 both fit in the same housing, so I don't have to deal with sending those back. Now, I will say this one looks like it's made a little bit nicer than this one. Looks like it's got a better reflective panel in the back, but they're fog lights. It'll work just fine. So what I would highly suggest you do, order your new fog light housing. Then once you get it in and you verify the bulb fitment, order your fog lights that you want to get from deAuto. When it's time to put these back in, they just go in the exact opposite way that you took the original ones out. We're going to go ahead and just slowly thread that in there just to get it started. And after that, we'll get the rest of them in and then we'll hand tighten them. It's very, very simple. Okay, this is in there really good. Now we can put the fog light cover back on. The way you do this, first make sure there's no debris lodged in any of this or in the bumper at all. And you're going to line up everything, push them in there, and then you just pop it on. I like to give it a nice little smack. Okay, we got the fog cover back on. One thing about this particular one, this piece here is a little hinge that connects to a part in the bumper here. So when you go to put this back on, you want to make sure that sets first and then push it back in and make sure it's tapped down to make sure it's nice and tight on the bumper. But it's all done. I'm going to go knock out the other side. Once we're done, we'll put the bulb in here, the new harness, and it'll be ready to go back onto the car whenever the time comes. The time has finally come to put the lenses onto the housing, so let me show you some things you're going to need to do this if you're doing this at home. First off, we've got a heat gun. You're going to see why. This is just basically for touch-ups and to prep the glue that we put on. These are some screws. These are just some tiny screws that I had laying around. They're maybe, I don't know, 1/4 inch, a little over 1/4 inch, maybe a 1/2 inch long. They're super thin. They're not going to crack the housing. We're going to use these to secure the lens to the housing a bit better. We've got 2 different kinds of clamps. Definitely get various clamps. You're going to want these after you set the lens into the housing to hold it together because it will try and back itself out a little bit. And then the big thing you're going to need is this right here. This is the Morimoto Retro Rubber Resealing Glue, and this is the stuff you want. Don't get anything else. You can get this on Amazon. You can get it from the Retrofit source, but it comes with a ton. I used a very little amount to do one headlight already. This stuff can stretch and whatnot. Right now in the garage, it's probably about 75, 80 degrees, and it's not super tacky. I can touch it without sticking to my finger. Once it gets hot, it will stick to everything, and I'll show you what that looks like. So let me get everything, get out your bug. Let me get everything situated, and I'll show you how I do this. One thing that you guys want to make sure you do before you start setting the butyl into the channel, get whatever oven you're going to use, which I'm using my garage oven because I'm lucky enough to have one, set it to 220 degrees, and then make sure you got something over the rack. People use cookie sheets. I like just 2 pieces of wood because it doesn't conduct heat when we set the plastic in there, and it'll be just fine at 220 degrees Fahrenheit. So we got that going. It's preheated and ready to go. I've got my headlight on the bench here. I've already blown it out, and so I'm going to just start taking some of the butyl here, the Morimoto Retro Rubber. And the good thing about this is you don't have to try and get it wrapped around all at once. You can do it in sections really easily, and you want to cut less than what you think you're going to need because it will stretch. You basically just pinch and stretch, and it'll thin it out, and you don't need it obviously super thin. You want to fill the channel, but you don't need a massive amount of this stuff in there. And if you see a wider part, you know, you want to put a little bit wider of a piece in, then great. Now, if you have a damaged channel that like there's not a backing, you still want to make sure you get the butyl around it. But here I'm just going to grab it, and I'm going to just kind of lay it where I think it would have gone even if it was there. And I'm going to kind of push it up against the channel there. And then once again, we're going to stretch it into this channel. Now, when you stretch it, it's going to want to pull back on itself. And what we're going to do after we get it all in the channel is we are going to heat it with the heat gun a little bit to see if it shrinks. All right, you guys, I've got the butyl set into the channel. Now, this headlight has a really good channel, and I didn't destroy it like I did the other one. One thing you want on standby whenever you're starting to do this, where you're going to actually be touching the butyl, is you want a cup with some soapy water. That's what's in here, because even if this is super sticky from being warm, you can dip your fingers in that and manipulate it a little bit without, one, burning yourself, and two, without it getting tacky. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take the heat gun, and we're going to just heat up this one edge here, because the first thing I'm going to do is work on getting the actual ends of the butyl connected to each other. So that should be all I need. We'll get my fingers dipped in here, and we'll start to kind of push it together here. And once they form a little bit of a bond, that's all I care about, because this will allow them, once it's really hot, to actually mold together once the lens goes into it. Okay, all of the ends of the pieces I kind of cut apart to put onto the headlight are pushed together now. So now it's ready for me to fit the lens over it. And before you do that, get some compressed air, blow out the headlight. You don't want any debris in here that you know, if you can help it. Same thing, blow out the inside of the lens. On this lens, try your best not to touch the actual inside of the lens. Replacement lenses usually have some kind of film on there, and if you touch it in any way, whether you have gloves on or not, it'll mess it up. You can probably see fingerprints, but that's on the outside. So this thing's ready to go on here. I'm going to heat up the entire edge of the headlight, and we're going to place this on there and press it in just a little bit, not fully, but just enough to get it stuck in there, and then it'll go into the oven. Once again, when you're heating this up, be really careful not to melt any of the paint on the inside of the headlight, especially if you did a bunch of work to customize them. You don't want to mess that up. And also, don't melt any of the wires inside the headlight. And just be really careful. Especially on this headlight, we got to start around like that. And once it touches this stuff, it's going to want to stick to it. So we're going to just do a gentle press to get it attached, but not the final press that would completely seal it. We're going to flip it over, make sure we do the same thing underneath it, and make sure it's seated underneath, because this one, we want to make sure it's good to go. Okay, so I gave it a little push on there. Feels like it's good and sturdy to go into the oven, so I'm going to go move it and put it in there, and we'll leave it in there for about 5 minutes. 220 degrees sounds like a lot, but it really isn't a ton. But you don't want to put the light in there where the lens is touching anything metal where it can melt the lens, so just be really careful. Get it clear of the door. That looks good to me. All right, 5 minutes. While the headlight's in the oven, let's go ahead and get the other stuff prepped and ready. You're gonna still need that cup of soapy water. You wanna have those screws ready, those little tiny ones for securing the headlight. You wanna make sure you got a few set out. These came off the headlight lens when I disassembled it, and so make sure you have these, especially if your channels are in good condition. This is gonna help keep the headlight sealed to the actual body of the headlight, or the lens sealed to the body of the headlight. So have a couple of those sitting around ready to go. We'll put those off to the side. Then, to protect our hands while we're working on it, because it is gonna be hot coming out of there, I've got some pretty tight fitting pair or a tight-fitting pair of regular mechanics gloves from Harbor Freight. I'm gonna put those on, and then I'm gonna put these on over top of it. These are some extra large latex gloves that are, I think they're 9mm thick, and that comes in really handy holding and manipulating the headlight while I'm working on it, and then that'll also come in handy when we have to manipulate the butyl. And yeah, so here in a few minutes, we'll take the headlight out, we'll get going. One other thing is when this comes out, that butyl will be hot, which means it's gonna be sticky. It's gonna get on anything it touches. So you wanna be really careful with that. And also when you put it on the table, whatever surface you're putting it on, just be cognizant. And that stuff drips down, it's gonna get on it. If it gets on your clothes, it's gonna ruin it. So just take a little bit of extra care to make sure it doesn't get all over you. All right, we've got the headlight. I'm gonna set it down, close my oven real quick. Okay, so we're gonna do the final press on here and get this lens set. And like I said, it's gonna wanna back out, so that's where these clamps come in handy here. And I don't do it to the front of the lens, just gonna grab it here where it's not gonna be visible. And remember, we've got these little clamps that we can put on here, but while this is sitting here like this, we're gonna pick it up. Well, there goes one of my clamps. Well, we're just not gonna worry about those clamps right now. And trust me, you're gonna want these because as temperatures fluctuate, they're gonna try and expand a little bit. And those clips help, but they're not the best. So I got two on top. Let's flip it around to the bottom. Now on this end, I went through these and into the lens itself, and that seemed to work pretty well. So we're gonna wrap this video up, guys. Thank you for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed this. I know this is kind of a in-depth project, but you know, you might decide to do this one day, and hopefully this can help guide you along. Overall, I'm really happy with the results for a DIY project like this. I've never done a full overhaul on a set of headlights like this, and they came out pretty well, if you ask me. The chrome paint is bubbling a little bit because of the heat here in southeastern North Carolina, but I don't really care. If I need to redo it, it'll be easy enough. But tune in next week, because next week I'm going to show you guys how to remove all of the bulbs on this and replace them with the upgraded deAutoLed bulbs, and those make a massive difference. So if you need upgraded headlight bulbs, you're going to want to check that video out to see the absolute just insane difference from the OEM HIDs to the upgraded LEDs from deAuto. So yeah, we'll see you on that next video, and thanks for tuning in.